With ad buys, she can beat him in a debate. Another candidate who is not a fan of allowing Bloomberg to debate will not be on the stage herself tonight.
It's wrong.
Tulsi Gabbard, the Hawaii congresswoman, is still in the race.
And it's voters in these primaries and caucuses that are unfortunately losing out because of the DNC's decisions in Washington to kind of hold their own, pre-primary selection process and determining who they want voters to hear from or not. It's clear that the DNC would rather hear from Michael Bloomberg, a billionaire, rather than hearing from me, the only person of color left in this race, the first female combat veteran ever to run for president, and the voice that I bring from so many Americans that really challenges the establishment of the powerful elite and is speaking about actually ending wasteful regime change wars, this new Cold War and nuclear arms race that doesn't make us any safer.
The Republican governor of New Hampshire, who I interviewed before their primary, he predicts that the Democrats will have a brokered convention and that the president will win re-election because if the Democrats select a moderate, then the Bernie fans stay home. And if Sanders is the nominee, the more moderates stay home. Do you think that's possible? Are you worried about that?
I'll leave the mechanics of a brokered convention to the pundits. I think the biggest thing that I'm most concerned about now is that voters all across this country have the opportunity to, number one, make an informed decision, being able to hear from different candidates like myself before they make that call, before they go and cast their votes. And number two, that their voices are heard through their votes. There are some issues that people are having, whether you're looking at what happened in Iowa or you're looking at the different rule changes the DNC is making around this debate process, or the concern that at the convention, the selections, the choices that the voters actually make could be undermined by superdelegates coming in and deciding who they think should be our nominee rather than listening to the people. These are reforms that I've talked about for years. And that I still believe need to be enacted so that we are respecting the voices and the votes of the American people.
What is it going to take to unite the factions of the party? Or do you think this talk of a divide among Democrats is more media hype and the Democrats will coalesce around an eventual nominee?
I think that by and large, Democrats will coalesce around an eventual nominee. The Democratic Party is very diverse. There are, and that's not a bad thing. There are different people with different views on a variety of different issues, different ideas on how we solve problems. The bigger thing that I'm more concerned about is that in this election and in the day-to-day in Washington, the hyper-partisanship is really, really tearing our country apart. That this change that I'm seeking to bring about is something bigger than just Democrats versus Republicans. There's a deeper frustration that voters have that leaders in Washington are of by and for the powerful elite rather than of by and for the people. And I look forward to bringing soldiers' values. I've served in the Army National Guard now for almost 17 years, deployed twice to the Middle East, and I want to bring those soldiers' values of honor, integrity, respect for all Americans, and service to the presidency.
Who would you most likely get behind if he or she were the nominee? Like, is there a scenario in which we have a Democratic nominee and you end up supporting President Trump? Or based on your last answer,
no.
Is it that you will support a Democrat?
Yeah, no, I'm still very focused on being the Democratic nominee. If that is not the case, then I will stand behind the Democratic nominee.
I met someone in New Hampshire who said they cast their ballot for you, and he freely admitted it was a protest vote. He didn't actually think, you were going to win his state. In the last election, he said he voted Libertarian. And I met another man who said he's voting for President Trump, but he said of all the Democrats, he likes you the best because he's a veteran and he appreciated your service. I wonder, based on who your supporters are, if the president were to offer you a cabinet position, like let's say he gets reelected and he offers you a cabinet position, would you take it?
No. Once again, I'm very focused on winning this election, and what you've just pointed out, I heard from people who share those same sentiments every day, people who are libertarians, people who are Republicans and Democrats, coming together and saying, Tulsi, you have my support because this is about putting country first. And when you think about what the candidate who can beat Donald Trump, that has to be a candidate who can attract support from across party lines. Just getting support from Democrats won't be enough. And this is why I am confident in my ability to win in November, to beat Trump, unify our country, heal these divides so that we can together move forward as a nation.
Because you are such a unique Democrat, I'm wondering the answer to this. Before New Hampshire, before New Hampshire went, they had a debate in that state, and the moderator during that debate asked if anyone was not in favor of a socialist nominee, clearly referencing Mr. Sanders. Amy Klobuchar was the only one on stage who raised her hand, and I wonder, would you have raised yours too?
Oh, well, first of all, I think these simplistic terms really don't accurately portray the different candidates and the choices that voters have before them, and it only further divides us. And what we really should be focused on is how we solve problems, and that's what I'm talking about. Is we've got all these different labels saying we are either this or you're that, and maybe people have different associations with those labels that mean one thing to someone and another thing to a different person. I think voters are best served by just saying, okay, look, here's a problem I'm concerned about. How will you as a candidate solve that problem, and focus on that substance more than anything else?
It sounds like you're saying labels don't really serve anything. Labels like socialist don't really serve any purpose.
They even the label progressive, even the label conservative. If you talk to different people and in conservative circles, they'll say, well, this person's a real conservative, but that person is not. This person's a real progressive, that person is not. And it begs the question, what does it even mean? As a voter, I'm more concerned about, who are you? What is your experience? What do you stand for? And how will you solve the problems that face the American people in this country? This is exactly what I've been doing throughout our campaign. And this is why at every single town hall event, every single gathering and rally that we have voters coming who are doing the same, setting aside their own partisan affiliations and saying, look, we're here to share ideas. We're here to talk about how we together as Americans working side by side can solve the systemic challenges that are at the root cause of so many of the concerns that people have across the country.
Finally, Congresswoman, I want to ask you what you make of Vice President Joe Biden's and Elizabeth Warren's campaigns, because they were at the top and they, heading into Nevada are not. And I'm wondering, because of where you are, what you make of those campaigns sort of, maybe seemingly falling apart at this point as we move into Nevada and South Carolina and then the Super Tuesday states. When you look at campaigns like those that were supposed to be doing really well, what does that sort of say about the landscape? And does that sort of give you a hope or an opening?
I think it does, because as much as there is a lot of noise and people who are projecting who they think will win or lose this entire primary election, we've got to just remember only two states out of all the 50 states plus the territories have actually gone and cast their vote. So we should not discount voters in all the other states and territories who have yet to make sure their voice is heard. This election could go any which way. I think we're seeing how that's possible. There are no certainties. And I do think that this is where we have the opportunity, even though really I'm facing more of a challenge than others, given I'm not a billionaire. And there's been an almost total corporate media blackout of my campaign since I began this campaign about a year ago. Just one example, I have had the opportunity to have one national televised town hall. Every other candidate has had far more than that. Pete Buttigieg had 11. No other candidate has only had a single town hall. So, and I have asked MSNBC and CNN and asked Fox News viewers, hey, let them know you want to hear from me. Give me the opportunity to share my platform and my message to voters so they can make that best informed decision.
One last question. Hawaii is my second favorite place in the world. I'm an LA girl. I've gone to Hawaii many times, and my producer wants me to ask you, Hawaiian pizza, delicious or an abomination?
You're referring to the pineapple controversy, I'm assuming, right?
Pineapple and ham on there, right?
Well, I don't eat meat. I'm vegan, so the ham thing I'll leave to someone else to decide. But I like pineapple, whether it's on pizza or it's freshly picked sweet Maui pineapple. It's all good. It's all good.
Okay, we'll put you down as a 50-50 split on Hawaiian pizza because most of it comes with ham. Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.